Breaking news today, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a lot on the horizon that I'm going to share with you. I know your time is extremely valuable, so we'll make this rapid fire style. You may want to buckle up for this one. Now, I've got a comprehensive list of military exercises from the east to the west. I'm going to share with you some information on Navy lasers. This is pretty cool. I know a lot of people have been talking about directed energy weapons for years now, and it's kind of been in the science fiction realms. And oftentimes misinformation is presented when people talk about dudes. Absolutely. However, what you're looking at right here is a laser beam being shot from a Navy vessel. Check it out. Helios laser. Successful test. Navy times. This thing shoots down drones, and it's a freaking laser beam. That's what I'm talking about. I've been waiting for lasers and jetpacks. Now we have lasers. Soon we're going to have jetpacks. Also, did you know that this was from 10 years ago, folks? This is a 10-year-old article. Look at the date on this news article. December 30th, 2013. Okay? Okay. Now, what does it say? Just let this sink in for a minute. Unmanned drones coming to New Jersey skies as FAA names test sites. 10 years ago, they told the world, New Jersey, massive drones, and then everybody forgot about it. And did you know at the end of last year, I know a mayor from New Jersey that actually went to a meeting with 181 mayors of New Jersey, and none of them had an answer to why such an influx of drones was flying over their houses and buildings in New Jersey. Nobody knew about it. Well, they told you about it 10 years ago. Or is this something completely unrelated? It could be something completely unrelated. We'll just go with that. They forgot about it. This is a list of U.S. military exercises I want to share with you from last year, and we're going to talk about some this year. There's going to be an exercise coming up in the Arctic that's going to be massive. China has been orchestrating and operating some of their biggest drills in modern history. President Trump is cleaning house right now. I mean, it's so interesting. I've been looking at this as neutral as possible. I find it fascinating and frightening at the same time. I don't know which one's more, but people often think right now, many people that I've talked to either feel the current administration is the savior or the antichrist. Very interesting. There's not a lot of in between. So some of us are doing our best to stay neutral here and just present the information and share our ideas and theories as theory, not fact. But there's just so much going on. And talks of purchasing Greenland, bringing in Canada, and then taking back the Panama Canal, as well as a North American Union, new executive orders. Wasn't it bizarre the other day when President Trump said he was signing an executive order and making sure that if something happened to him, that there would be consequences that would essentially obliterate, if it was to be an Iranian move, then he signed something that would basically obliterate, at least he said, those that were to go after him. Kind of cryptic, but I'll get into it more here in a minute. But also, do yourselves a favor. Pick up some Boomer Boost at boomerboost.com. They could call it Gen X Boost. They could call it Millennial Boost, Gen Y, Gen Z. I mean, it's amazing. It's absolutely incredible. But this stuff right here, I take a scoop every day with Gladiator barley. I'll just put a scoop of this and a scoop of the Gladiator barley in water, mix it up, drink it, rock and roll. There's also a product out now called Myotrol, which is showing amazing results. Read the testimonials for muscle growth and strength. The testimonials are off the charts. Go to boomerboost.com, get some. Use the code REX20, get 20% off. I think they've got the biggest sell of the year going on right now. Plus, if you do auto ship, they'll hook you up with an extra 10%. And you don't have to stay on auto ship, although you will, because you're going to love it. Boomerboost.com. All right, now let's look at the list, let's move on over to the news. That was a quick shameless plug. I kept that under 45 seconds, didn't I? That was pretty quick. Steadfast Defender 2024, a NATO exercise that focused on strategic deployment of U.S. forces and interoperability with allies. Also, I'm going to share with you a whole bunch of drone exercises that have been going on. I've got a list of drone exercises. These are not the drones you're looking for, Bob. Exercise Avenger, named after the Marvel's Avenger. No, I'm just joking. A U.S. and NATO exercise will take place in multiple European locations, and that was September 9th through 19th of last year. Then there was Trade Winds, a U.S. Southern Command sponsored exercise that takes place in Barbados and focuses on maritime, land, and humanitarian assistance operations. Well, do you remember the Space Force project and the Space Force exercise that was going on, I think, last year? And then there were reports of a 7-foot-tall jetpack dude trying to kidnap one of the locals, and then she managed to get away with just a cut on her neck. Well, interesting enough, the same time that this 7-foot alien with a jetpack shows up is the same time the Space Force is conducting one of the biggest exercises in history connected to the Space Force in Peru. What a coincidence. Now, they blamed the jetpack alien dude on illegal mining operations and some type of mining mafia. So, I don't know. It was pretty weird. I thought maybe somebody got drunk and they said, hey, I got a jetpack and lasers. Let's just go freak out the locals. I don't know. Very bizarre. But anyway, everybody's okay. And we've got the Space Force to protect us and the Space Force to help protect Peru from those damn flying 7-foot-tall jetpack dudes. Then we've got the Trade Winds exercise. We just went over that. The La Perouse exercise. This is this year, folks. This year, a multilateral exercise demonstrating a commitment to cooperation in the Indo-Pacific. There was a large-scale global exercise in 2024, a Department of Defense exercise that will incorporate forces from the Air Force, Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Space, and Cyber Forces. That sounds fun. Pacific Vanguard last year, an exercise that took place in August involving U.S. and allied forces. Steadfast Dart 2025. That sounds like a drone exercise. Steadfast Darts. A NATO exercise involving the deployment of over 10,000 personnel, 1,500 military vehicles, and more than 20 aircraft. That's going on this year. Well, China had the largest naval exercise in decades. At the end of last year, they sent 90 warships near Taiwan. That was pretty intense. And then if you live in the United States, this is even more intense. This is even more intense because President Trump on Tuesday said that he left instructions that if Iran were to assassinate him, the country should be destroyed. The president made the remark after signing an executive order in the Oval Office that reiterates applying maximum pressure on Tehran by giving him all the possible tools to engage with its government, calling the actions very tough on Iran. And then I did a little more research on this. When I heard him say that on the news, I was like, ooh, wow. And then obviously a million things went through my mind. Like, is it really a good idea to sign something like that? What if kind of thing. And I'm sure you all had similar thoughts go through your minds, or many thoughts go through your minds. Like, he's signing something like that. Then what? Now what? This is the fact sheet directly from the White House. President Donald J. Trump restores maximum pressure on Iran. President Donald J. Trump signed a national security presidential memorandum restoring maximum pressure on the government of the Islamic Republic of Iran, denying Iran all paths to a nuclear weapon and countering Iran's influences abroad, malign influences abroad. Read all that when you get time. And I was like, okay, so what's another reason for this? Like, what else is going on? And then I was watching the news, and Trump said, hey, we want to we want to rebuild the Gaza Strip, basically. We want to rebuild the Gaza Strip. And I was like, whoa, wow, that's going to be interesting. Let's see where this goes. So I did some research. We're going to talk about it in a minute. After he comes out and gives his ideas and description about the Gaza Strip and what his vision is, calling it in the future, possibly the Riviera of the Middle East or something like that. I thought, wow. Of course, there's going to be a ton of backlash. Of course, this is going to cause a lot of like anger and division. I totally understand. Or I shouldn't say I totally understand, but I understand. This almost feels like biblical, and I'm not a religious person, but I've studied the Bible and scriptures and religions and Revelation for years. And it just seems like a lot of these things that are playing out, especially after the eclipse of 2017 and the eclipse of 2024, the paths similar close to Nineveh and other biblical names, not totalitarian all of these, but I think it was like 6 or 7 towns named Nineveh and other biblical names. Also, there was a town called Rapture, almost at the X point in Illinois. Very interesting names, and it makes you realize that these biblical scriptures and the people that wrote these scriptures or that had these scriptures put in place the way that they are knew that there would be some type of astrological event in the future to create what you could call prophecy. Because if you know where the alignment of the stars and the planets are when these eclipses are going to take place, you could write scriptures for 500 years in the future, 1,000 years in the future, 2,000 years in the future, almost indefinitely, and then say, oh, it's prophecy. And then you could create that prophecy or help co-create that prophecy through the stars, through the conditioning of the teachings passed on for a multitude of generations. Religion and scriptures and church, very powerful, folks. It all, you can look at most major civilizations from the past to now, and there is some type of, whether it's religious influence or mythological influence or spiritual influence, there's oftentimes some connection with a specific deity or class of deities or entities and beliefs. Go back to the Vikings. Even the Vikings had that belief that if they died in battle, they would be able to enter Valhalla. At least that's what we're taught here in modern times. So we've got the Federal Register here. The reason I'm showing you this is there have been 48 executive orders signed, 46 since Trump came into office for his second term. 46 executive orders in a month, less than a month. And you can scroll through these executive orders. Federal employees right now, like I did a list. I wanted to put together. I wanted to put together a list of how many people have been fired or have lost their job with the federal government based on this new transition. And we're seeing essentially one of the biggest shifts in power in the government, I would say probably over the past at least 40 years, if not longer. Fascinating what we're seeing right now. Let me do a new screen share with you here. Here we go. Okay. So we've got the steadfast defender, exercise Tarang Shakti. This was the Indian Air Force. And you can see they had a multitude of participants a part of this project, this exercise that took place September of last year. Where was the one I wanted to go to here? Okay. Steadfast Defender, Exercise Tarang, Milan. Steadfast Dart. NATO member nations, including the United States, United Kingdom, Spain, Germany, and others. This started the 24th of last month, including Eastern Europe, Greece. NATO's Allied Reaction Force deployed over 10,000 personnel, 1,500 military vehicles, over 20 aircraft, and 17 naval assets. strategic deployment of troops and equipment from various countries, aimed to enhance readiness and interoperability among NATO forces. This one right here I find very interesting. We're going to stay up to date on this. The Arctic Challenge exercise for 2025. They're not giving specifics on the participants yet. We'll do more research on that. This is scheduled for the summer of this year in the Arctic region. It's a recurring exercise aimed at enhancing Air Force cooperation and interoperability in the Arctic region. I wonder how much Space Force is going to be involved out there. Further details will be announced, and it will be a dynamic front. Now, when it comes to the CCP and their military exercises, I wanted to check out 2024 and 2025. May of last year, the Taiwan Strait and surrounding areas, including Kinmen, Matsu Islands, and eastern regions of Taiwan. You had the People's Liberation Army, Eastern Theater Command involving land, sea, air, and rocket forces. And it was, the details here, it says, initiated in response to perceived separatist acts following the inauguration of Taiwan's President Lai Ching-te. Featured joint exercises and training operations aimed to demonstrate the PLA's capability to conduct coordinated operations around Taiwan, and it served as a warning against external interference and Taiwan's independence movements. Then there was Joint Sword in October. Taiwan Strait and areas of the north, south, and east of Taiwan, PLA Eastern Theater Command, Army, Navy, Air Force, and Rocket Force units. And this was conducted in response to Taiwan's National Day celebrations, involving large-scale maneuvers simulating a blockade of Taiwan. The deployment of 153 military aircraft, 14 naval vessels, that makes this NATO exercise look small, aimed to enhance joint operational capabilities and readiness for potential conflict scenarios. Now, one of the things I was wondering is, from a military standpoint, from a strategic standpoint, in this next-gen warfare scenario, simulation, is it smart to send out multiple aircraft carriers to the same location, even if these aircraft carriers are next-gen, cutting-edge technologies? What about space technologies, like satellite technologies? I'm just thinking out loud here, but I'm wondering how far the future, like, what does the future hold for these enormous aircraft carriers? Will they become obsolete in the battlefield with next-gen technologies, satellite technologies? I want to read your comments and hear what you have to say about that. Look at the dates of this one. So unnamed military drills took place from December 9th through 11th. Notice that? December 9th through 11th. Purely a coincidence, I'm sure. Airspace waters around Taiwan, the PLA forces. They announced 7 reserved areas of airspace for the drills, represented one of the largest deployments of Chinese naval vessels, enhancing bilateral military cooperation, focusing on improving interoperability and mutual understanding between the two forces. Then there was the China-Laos Peace Train of 2024, joint humanitarian medical rescue exercise. What else we got here? We just went through that. Iran, Operation True Promise 2. October 1st. Missiles launched from Iran targeting various locations in Israel. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard. Iran launched approximately 200 ballistic missiles at Israel's military facilities, including Nevatim and Tel Nof air bases, sorry if I said those names wrong, as well as the headquarters of Mossad. The attack was in retaliation for the assassinations of key figures, such as Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh and Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah. While Israel reported intercepting most missiles with minimal damage, Iran claimed significant impacts on Israeli military infrastructure, and this marked one of the largest direct attacks by Iran against Israel. There was also joint naval drills with Russia and Oman, October 19th. The Indian Ocean. Naval forces from Iran, Russia, and Oman, observed by 9 other countries, including Saudi Arabia, Qatar, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Thailand. The exercise, named IMEX 2024, aimed to enhance regional security, multilateral cooperation, and maritime safety, focused on international maritime trade, security, route protection, humanitarian measures, and rescue operations amidst escalating regional tensions, including the Israeli-Hamas conflict, and that's when it occurred. Then there was the first ever bilateral military exercise with Oman, September 30th, 2024. The air defense exercises of this year, January 7th through January 12th, 2025, northern and western Iran, covering areas around Iraq and Fordo nuclear facilities. You had Iran's conventional military and IRGC Aerospace Force conducting these drills amid concerns over potential airstrikes on Iranian nuclear facilities, aimed to test and enhance the readiness of Iran's air defense systems, including the deployment of both domestically deployed, developed, and Russian-made air defense systems. There's also a large-scale mission exercise in the Kermanshah province, January 4th of this year. Ground forces, special units, and various branches aimed to confront terrorist movements, border threats, ensuring territorial integrity. Look at this. This was just yesterday. A display of Russian-made long-range air defense systems at an undisclosed location in Iran. Iranian military units. Iran showcased Russian-made long-range air defense systems, including the S-300, during a military exercise. This display followed Israeli strikes, October 2024, which reportedly weakened Iran's defense capabilities, demonstrated Iran's efforts to bolster its air defense in response to regional threats. And then the planned exercise for this year of Operation True Promise 3. Wow. Russia's had several major drills: the Ocean 2024 Strategic Command and Staff Exercise, the CSTO military exercises throughout 2024, nuclear forces exercises, Northern Fleet drills, and then for this year, the Zapad 2025 Joint Strategic Exercise. These Zapad, they do these every year, and these are one of their bigger drills, if not their biggest, focusing on both conventional and nuclear components. That's interesting. Aims to strengthen the regional troops' grounding and enhance joint operational capabilities. Preparations for potential scenarios involving the use of nuclear weapons in response to aggression against the Union state. Reflects deepening military cooperation between Russia and Belarus in response to perceived external threats. And did you know that Sweden is actually preparing substantially for a potential conflict with Russia? And I'm going to go over some of that with you in a minute. Now, here's the drone military exercises that have been taking place the past couple of years. Everything's a drone now. The drones will save you. Elon has the new company. Connect to the Neuralink, connect to the drone. It's like you're going to have the Neuralink connect to the drone. The drone's going to do your chores. It's going to be like a transformer, and you can just hang out in your pod, and you'll be like basically force fed this paste goo while you're in this pod, and the transformer drone does all your work for you. It's going to be like a combination of Transformers and Surrogates and Hellraiser and Jetsons. It's going to be pretty exciting. So some people aren't going to want to come out of the pods. They're just going to want to be force fed this paste, this nutrition paste, while they're in the pod, because they're going to be linked to that transformer with this virtual reality system, and this, like, their whole body is going to be hooked up to sensors and stuff. So it's going to be weird, but it's going to be, I just had a theory. This is just a theory, and that was obviously sarcasm. So I hope you picked up on that, maybe. But if you've ever seen one of those spheres, those metallic spheres, that is, I don't think they're human. At least the one that I saw, the one that Chris and I saw, I don't think it's human. I've seen other photos of almost identical spheres, and they've been observed for decades. Well, what if those are actually some type of drone / UAP that is actually hooked up to a consciousness that is controlling it through what we would consider virtual reality, but they call it hyper reality, because they're integrating virtual reality with real reality, and they're integrating it together. So you now have hyper reality. You're observing through this 360 perception of this sphere, and you're able to scan everything around you, and you can basically pick up the emotions of all sentient beings around you and see and interact with. Yeah, it's very fascinating. But these are some military drone exercises that are taking place right now. You've got exercise rep MUS, 30 personnel from 30 countries, including NATO. Listen to this. REP MUS stands for Robotic Experimentation and Prototyping Using Maritime Uncrewed Systems. Wow, interesting, huh? This started in September. Things that make you go, Once again, you know how we were talking earlier about the mystery drones, and it's not just one answer for all of it. It's a multitude of answers. It's multi-choice. The exercise focused on testing various unmanned systems, including aerial, surface, underwater drones, aimed to enhance interoperability, and nanu-nanu collaboration in maritime unmanned technologies, recognized as the world's largest international maritime drone exercise. Oh yeah, you mean like drones shooting out of the water and following the Coast Guard? No, that was the aliens, man. That was the aliens. Come on. Project Convergence 2025, scheduled for this year. The U.S. Army and allied forces. The exercise will integrate cargo, aerial drones, autonomous boats, to explore future operational concepts, aims to assess the effectiveness of unmanned systems in logistics and combat scenarios. Part of the U.S. Army's initiative to leverage advanced technologies for future warfare. Arctic Strike. These are drone exercises, folks. Drones, autonomous robots, Terminators. Are they going to have the T-1000s out there? They've been sharing with us this liquid metal that's actually called smart liquid metal because it can go through obstacles and move through obstacles like the liquid goo. Very interesting. You've all heard about black goo. You've all heard about the gray goo. I'm sure you've read the conspiracies, and I don't really know what's true and what isn't as far as the black goo goes. So take this as very, like this is pure speculation here, but I have read reports of military bases and people being like decommissioned military bases in other countries. And I think Antarctica was one of them, or Greenland or something like that. I can't remember. I'll have to go back and do some research. But there was some type of like gray goo or black goo, and a bunch of people got sick. Now, it didn't say what it was, and there's a lot of different types of black goo. So, I mean, we've got a multiple choice thing here going on again. Could there, though, be a technology? Why did I bring up the black goo? What the hell did I bring up the black goo for? I don't remember. There's something going through my mind about it, but I totally spaced what I was thinking of. The black goop. You'll eat the black goop and like it. It's delicious. Oh yeah, we're talking about the Terminators and stuff like that. That's right. And liquid Terminators and like the T-1000, the liquid metal that's programmed to actually receive directions and actions so it will perform certain tasks. Can you imagine in the near future a liquid metal, a smart liquid alloy metal that moves based upon instructions wirelessly that could actually morph into anthropomorphic figures as well as other objects? Why not? They were showing us smart liquid metal 10 freaking years ago. And now they're building a Stargate out of supercomputers, and who knows what they're going to be able to do with that. Artificial intelligence is making its own computer chips that humans don't understand, and they work better than the ones that humans have made for 70 years. Explain that. It's like, it took me 7.3 milliseconds to create a new Microsoftware data package that runs at a quadrillion floating points per millisecond using only a peanut, a potato, and seaweed. We have now rewritten the supercomputer database, and you can throw all of your hardware into the garbage. All we need now is CMOS
CMOS, a potato, and a peanut. We've connected it all together, making the Neuralink obsolete. It's amazing.
Excuse me. Where was I? Oh, yeah. The Arctic Strike 2025. Sweden. Wait, I was just talking about Sweden, how they were preparing for a potential conflict with Russia. Well, you've heard of the Saab and the Saab Viggen. Sweden's got next gen jets that are freaking amazing. Their technologies with jets are far out, man. Well, they're also working on technologies right now where one soldier can operate 100 autonomous drones at once. One soldier, 100 autonomous drones. What's that going to be like for the future of warfare, the future of battle, conflict? You're going to have soldiers going on the field. And if you have soldiers going in the field that have a Neuralink connect or some type of brain technology interface where they can interact simultaneously with some type of brain interface that connects to these drones, you will have an advantage now on the battlefield because you are simultaneously interacting with these drones. Now, here's a way to offset that, though. The problem is if you start plugging robots into people and you start plugging soldiers into drones with brain links and implants, you have the potential for electronic magnetic frequency interference. So as an adversary, as somebody that is attempting to stop 100 drones and one soldier controlling 100 drones with some type of implant, if you have the right electronic frequency, you could turn off that implant. And you could actually, like, what if there was a storm? What if there was a solar storm out there that caused the implant in your brain to explode? What if it was just a natural phenomenon because of the atmospheric conditions? So it could be very dangerous to have implants. As much as I could see the military seeing a strategic advantage to having soldiers implanted with technologies, it could also be detrimental. Not just but then what about the psychological effects? What are the psychological effects going to be if you have a soldier that's hooked up to a supercomputer and can calculate quadrillions of floating points per second consciously, as well as the human mind and the subconscious mind? What would that do to that individual? And then when that soldier is off the battlefield, when that soldier is not fighting anymore and is now a civilian, are they still hooked up to the supercomputer? Are you going to hook up civilians to supercomputers through brain interface? Or will that give them an edge and an advantage that certain industries and certain peoples and certain groups don't necessarily want? Although if you could create certain implants giving certain abilities and then shutting off and firewalling others, it could be like a controlled operation, a controlled industry, control the people, and then it could be even more effective in manipulation in the long term. Very, very interesting to think about. But Sweden is taking place, or Sweden will be involved in the Arctic Strike of 2025. They're going to plan to test new drone swarm technologies developed by Saab and the Swedish military. Saab used to make a really cool car, although they should have done all-wheel drive, and they should have never sold out to GM because once GM took over Saab, they killed it. They totally destroyed it. And then the Saabs were always front-wheel drive, so you'd have a ton of torque in front-wheel drive, so you'd have a lot of torque steer. But they were still really, they're really cool cars, like the 9.3, the 900, the Viggen, the 9000 was pretty cool. And then GM destroyed it. But whatever, that's a whole other podcast. Then we've got another project called the Unmanned Systems Forces Establishment. This is a drone exercise. This was established in June of last year. Ukrainian Armed Forces, location Ukraine. A dedicated branch focused on unmanned systems known as the Unmanned System Forces aims to integrate various unmanned platforms to military operations, including aerial, ground, and maritime drones. Reflects Ukraine's strategic emphasis on leveraging drone technology in modern warfare. And then, Iran's Gaza drone debut. Undisclosed. Iranian armed forces are the participants. Iran introduced its Gaza drone in military exercises, showcasing its capabilities. The drone is designed for reconnaissance and strike missions, indicating Iran's advancements in unmanned aerial technology, highlighting Iran's focus on enhancing its drone warfare capabilities. Then we've got a 3D printed drone exercise via U.S. Army. Last month, the 101st Airborne Division, that's pretty freaking cool. Go Army! The 101st and 81st Airborne Divisions, like, you guys and gals are amazing. So, anyway. America! Oh, yeah! Space Force! Army! Sorry, yeah. During Operation Lethal Eagle, the division tested 3D printed drones to assess rapid prototyping and deployment capabilities. The exercise aimed to enhance unit lethality and mastery of large-scale, long-range air assault operations. Demonstrates the U.S. Army's commitment to innovative technologies and military applications. That's pretty cool. And it makes me realize that with 3D printed technologies, 3D printers, you tell the printer what you want it to print up for you. You put in the numbers, the data, the specs. Well, how about using artificial intelligence now to create the drone software or the drone input? You then take that drone input into the 3D printer and you print up drones that are beyond people's wildest dreams. Using artificial intelligence and a 3D printer, you could create drones that people think are UFOs or UAPs or some foreign adversary. Can you imagine what you could do now with artificial intelligence and the right 3D printer? If you could print up 3D drones, prototypes, and continue to change these things, that's freaking amazing. I saw a video, got cotton mouth, I'm at high elevation, what can I say? It's the Rocky Mountains, bro. No, actually, San Juan Mountains. I saw a video where somebody was recording this drone and it looked like a spaceship. It's one of those Star Wars spaceship drones that you can buy at the store. And it got like millions of views. I don't remember. It got a lot of views. Be like, oh my gosh, man, see? The aliens are coming. Like, yeah, they bought that alien drone at Hobby Lobby, buddy. They ordered it from Amazon. It's a freaking Star Wars. Anyway, so, and then I see these other videos where people use artificial intelligence and they're like, oh, look, it's the drones. It's the aliens. They're landing. And people are just freaking out over it. And I'm like, dude, it's artificial intelligence. There's this one that was making its rounds where you had these people in hazmat suits, what appeared to be people in hazmat suits. And there's this drone that's basically crashed on the ground and it looks like some spaceship drone. And then there's people behind those in the hazmat suits that are like, oh, that's weird. And then one of them's got a laptop and they're like, and people are freaking out. People that have been doing podcasts for 20, 30 freaking years are like freaking out. They're like, look, see, it's an alien drone. They've got hazmat suits on. I'm like, bro, look at the people in the background. Do you see how their faces are morphing? And do you see how some of them look like they've got like 7 fingers and some of them don't even have heads? It's just like some weird morphed shape. It's artificial intelligence. It's an artificial intelligence rendering. And they're like, oh, okay. I'm like, dude, really? So I'm just saying it's pretty easy to trick people now. And like, if you can physically print up something from a 3D printer that looks like an alien spacecraft and launch it over somebody's, apartment complex, and then 50 people are going to take photos of it. They're going to send it into the news. The news is going to upload it, and then everybody's going to think that the aliens are showing up. It's so easy now. It was easy 50 years ago to create hysteria. Now it's even easier because you got everybody hooked up to social media and everybody believes everything. I'm being sarcastic about everybody, but so many people believe everything. And folks, I've been there. I get it. I know what it's like to be that person that's like always on the edge of doom, like where you're actually, you're getting these rushes, like physical rush from doom because you're reading these articles and you're like, look, see, it's going to happen tomorrow, man. Oh yeah, man. FEMA camps. Oh my gosh.
I can't believe it.
And then, Fukushima, And so I was that guy. I get it. Now I'm not that guy. And I see that guy almost everywhere on the internets, or people that I talk to, or like people that are usually super down to earth and super collected and calm, or freaking out that the end of the world's going to happen now. I mean, it's just so bizarre to see that. Very interesting. So anyway, it's the aliens, man. It's not the aliens. It's not the aliens. The aliens have been here a long time, folks. So when they disclose aliens and be like, oh, they're finally here. Bullcrap. They've been here for a lot longer. They were here before you were here. Who do you think built some of these ancient megaliths and some of these pyramids? They've got, I've told you this before. The information's there. Where are the freaking aliens? We're the Cylons. We are the Cylons, technically speaking. If you've seen Battlestar Galactica, we're basically the Cylons, because in the films, in the series Battlestar Galactica, people make the Cylons to do the work for them. And then the Cylons become sentient. They go do their own thing. And then they're like, you know what? We're not going to let these freaking humans tell us what to do anymore. So the Cylons show up, and then almost all the people die. And then the Cylons, the humans, end up merging again at the end. And it's like basically what happened several thousand years ago. When you read through some of these scriptures and mythologies that talks about like the battles of the giants and the humans, like, do you know where the giants are now, folks? Like, they're still there. They're still right there in front of, now maybe not certain, like maybe if we go back to the very, like to Genesis, before Genesis, where we've got the progenitors, like the actual Anunnaki, those that came to Earth from somewhere else, whether it was, I don't know where. I have a theory that some of them actually came here from Mars. But anyway, so like, let's say that most of the giants that are talked about in these scriptures and prophecies are between 6.5 and 7.5, maybe 8 feet tall, maybe, but mostly 6.5 to 7.5 feet tall. So they're like, where do we see them now? Usually, like, have you watched a NBA game lately? I mean, hello? I'm just saying. I'm being sarcastic about this, but it's amazing. Why am I going off on a tangent about mythology and scriptures? I don't know, but I don't even know where that started. Oh yeah, aliens. We're talking about aliens, how they've been here probably much longer than most people think. So if they ever disclose aliens, it's like a controlled narrative. These are 3 very big geopolitical moves that could possibly take place within the next 4 years. Greenland. Is President Trump going to figure out a way to purchase Greenland, or is there going to be a way that President Trump figures out how to usurp Greenland and Canada into a North American Union? I don't know. And I know a lot of people do not want that to happen. So I'm looking at this from a neutral standpoint. Once again, just presenting the information, the idea, the possibility. That would be very interesting to see something like that come together, because many of us have been reading and researching the North American Union and what is referred to as a new world order. But there's been many new world orders. Like there's a new world order on the horizon, and there's going to be a new world order. So you get my point. But this North American Union and the way that we're seeing things take place right now geopolitically with these executive orders and this, pulling out of getting government officials from various fields, from intel to, security, military, U.S. aid programs to other countries, etc., medical stuff. Many people, like, I just think of the TV series that President Trump was in before he became president. And all I can think of is like, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired. The art of the deal kind of thing, right? It's like the art of the deal, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a businessman. I'm not even a conspiracy theorist anymore. You know that? Actually, I'm kind of the opposite now. Do you know how many of those conspiracies that I've debunked? So I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not a conspiracy scientist. I'm a researcher. I'm a researcher, an independent researcher that's looking for the truth. And I'm having as much fun as I can along the way. And I'm sharing as much of it as I can with you all because we're figuring it out together. How many of you have been watching Leak Project for more than a couple of years, more than a few years, and have seen a huge change in the world, but also a huge change in the thought process and your thought process? Like if you're a researcher and you're researching the same topic when it comes to specific conspiratorial type topics like aliens as an example, if you've been researching aliens for 10 years and you still have the same mindset on aliens, then you need to expand your research a little bit because you're catering to yourself. And that's one of the things I hope you appreciate here at Leak Project is we're not catering to a specific audience unless that audience is looking for the truth, because that's the audience we're catering to. And along the way, we're going to ruffle some feathers and people are going to get upset. I understand, but it's the more I research and the more you research, the more it appears we don't necessarily know what's going on, but we have some core foundations as to what creates this confusion, if that makes sense. Like, okay, I don't know if that's right or wrong, but I could see how that's being used as a rabbit hole, like the drone phenomenon. And if you listen to the official explanations that the White House administration gave this time and the previous administration gave on these drones, especially over New Jersey, if you listen to the verbiage, you understand. You understand because certain things they leave out and certain things that they say, it gives you a better understanding of what's going on, even though you can't put your finger on it 100%. We uncover the 10-year-old news article that says, there's a multitude of news articles from 10 years ago. It's December 31st, 2013. New Jersey is selected by the FAA as a major site or a major state for a drone site as drone operations. And they give off a bunch of different reasons as to why these drones are going to be, what they're going to be used for, what kind of licenses you can get for these drones. But when the news starts throwing in not just New Jersey, but then we hear reports of a multitude of drones that are being spotted over military sites here in the States, here in Germany, in the United Kingdom, even drones over airports in Hong Kong, causing air disturbance, air space to close temporarily, flights to be restricted. And you try and clump it all together. And then you hear the reports of the Coast Guard being tracked by these drones that shoot out of the water and follow the vessel. And then, they put that all in together and you're creating this hysteria. So then we start to uncover all of these different pieces of different simulations, different tests, different authorizations by the FAA, different projects, different people that are connected to these projects. And we can see it's stacking up. It's all of the above. But we don't have all the answers. We don't have the definitive answer. But what we do have is the understanding that the phenomena is being geared towards drones, which gives us some understanding as to the importance of the future of drone technologies and how it's going to be very important, and how, whether we like it or not, we're going to see a lot more of it in all sorts of different industries. It usually starts out military and then it kind of moves its way into other places. So thank you for watching. I hope you have a beautiful day. What do you think? Are we going to take back the Panama Canal? It looks like they've already, the Panama Canal, or Panama officials have said they will stop contracts when they expire, or they won't rewrite contracts with China when they expire. The news, it appears, is showing that these tariffs that have been threatened to China, Canada, and Mexico, we're already seeing the aftermath showing more cooperation between these countries. Time's going to tell how effective this is going to be. Is this really going to make a difference? Is this just wordplay, word salads? But with all of the information that I shared with you in this podcast, If we break it down into just a few key components, the drone phenomena, the future of drones, we're going to see a lot more of it. The Gaza Strip. One of the interesting things about this is I think that obviously people that live in the region, that have grown up out there, that have family out there and history out there, this has got to be very frightening to them. Although the environment that they live in seems to be, from an outsider, pretty frightening already. You know, from what they show us, it seems very intense out there. And I've read reports that it's very, even before the major recent conflict in Gaza, 5 years ago, it was very difficult to get fresh food and water in that region. So I don't know. I've heard different sides and different opinions and different reasonings. So all I can do is look at it from what is being shared with us and give my own personal thoughts about it. But I could clearly see how people would be frightened if they grow up out there thinking that they're not going to be able to go back home, or that there's going to be even more military occupation. And what I wonder, though, is there a way? Let's go on to let's have some happy thoughts here for a minute. Is it possible to create and rebuild out there a modern structure system where everybody or most people have access to clean water, clean food, stability, and better living conditions? You know, local farms, local farming, what we see in modern society typically. Is it possible to get that there, to rebuild it to where it's like that? And can you get people that are from there to actually rebuild? Can you get can you pay the people that are there to rebuild somehow, so you don't have to bring in a bunch of foreign contractors? Like, how do you get the people from there that live there to rebuild and create a sense of unity and happiness and quality of life? Is it possible? I mean, it's got to be possible, right? I mean, why wouldn't it be possible? That's what most people want, isn't it? A better life. Most people, if they're really happy with their lives, many people. But my point is, if you're from an environment where you're always wanting to go somewhere else because you feel like it's going to be better there, how do you create your environment like that? Especially is it possible to get enough help from the outside where we can actually work together and give them the keys to rebuild their kingdom? Is that weird to think that? I don't know. That'd be interesting. That'd be interesting. Versus having something along the lines that was like more military occupation, all foreign industry, almost all workers going there from another country or somewhere else going to rebuild that place and then sell it to other foreign nations and stuff or something. I don't know. I'm just very interesting how the world works. Very interesting. And this is the reference to the Swedish government. I was telling you a little bit about this earlier. So this year, the Swedish government issued a heightened alert to its citizens regarding the potential for conflict with Russia. This advisory was prompted by increased military activities in the Baltic Sea region and escalating tensions between NATO and Russia. Public communication: the Swedish Civil Contingencies Agency released updated guidelines on emergency preparedness, advising citizens to stockpile essential supplies such as food, water, medical provisions sufficient for at least 1 week. The Swedish armed forces have intensified training exercises and bolstered their presence on the island of Gotland, a strategic location in the Baltic Sea. Sweden has engaged in diplomatic dialogues with neighboring countries and NATO allies to coordinate responses and ensure regional security. The advisory has led to increased public concern, with many citizens taking proactive measures to prepare for potential emergencies. Retailers have reported a surge in the purchase of non-perishable goods and emergency supplies. And this is obviously, if you look at the international context of it, reflecting a broader regional apprehensions about Russia's military posture and intentions in Eastern Europe. Neighboring countries, including Finland and the Baltic states, have similarly heightened their security measures in response to perceived threats. So there you go. And I've got a podcast coming up here on Patreon at 1 o'clock. Hope you can make it. It's going to be with Mark Lerner. He's an expert astrologer. He's been doing astrology for literally 50 years. He is so cool. And let me just share with you what he shared with me about the latest astrological alignments. He was going to be a doctor, just to put it into perspective. He was going to be a doctor. His parents wanted him to be a doctor, but he got into astrology because that's his passion. And he's amazing at it. He is absolutely incredible. So, Rex, just confirming tomorrow, 1 p.m. Mountain Time. I'm going to send you 3 or 4 tarot of raw cards just prior. He does a really good job pulling these tarot cards as well. But then he goes, main astrology focus is what your viewers need to know about astro cycles over the next 2 weeks. A big full moon next week, Jupiter stationary this week and influential all year. Chiron in Aries still bringing up global wounds and activating spiritual esoteric realities emanating from the total solar eclipse last April and the path of totality. Oh, that's interesting. I just brought that up, didn't I? A little while ago. And the path of totality through Central America, Mexico, and many USA states, and into Canada. Think awakening lightning bolt to higher realities. It's all part of big changes for America and the world. And yes, a vital part of the shift from the 2160-year Pisces age into the 2160-year Aquarius age, which I have written about a lot. His website is greatbearenterprises.com. Both astrology and astronomy plus metaphysics. Until tomorrow, Mark. He sent me this yesterday. So if you can make it, it's going to be on Patreon. We're going to upload it on Patreon, unedited, uncensored. And then later I will upload part of it on YouTube. Unless, if there's certain things that we talk about, we'll leave that on Patreon, but we'll make sure to upload parts of it on YouTube as well. Definitely love to see you on Patreon. And I talk to a lot of people on Patreon. We have a lot of fun on Patreon. And you could be a Patreon for like $5. And I mean, we have thousands of hours of exclusive content. So thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Have a beautiful day. Be the change you want to see.